Welcome to Football Insiders. The general gist of what we do is talk to coaches around high school football and then give you the inside information. And that's what we're going to do with the semifinals today. I'm Jason Andera, Midco Sports. This is Michael McCleary of Argus Leader Sports. And just before we get started with semifinal previews, a few upsets last week. Some crazy, especially in the smaller classes, but an interesting quarterfinals as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time of the playoffs where seeding starts to not matter anymore. We were sort of saying that last week, but definitely this week where, obviously some of those number one, number twos, they're on a side of the bracket where maybe they were feeling comfortable with, but some teams have showed out, and that's, it gives us a whole new look at this time of the playoffs. All
right, well, we're going to make our picks as we go through. In the quarterfinals, I built up a 4-pick lead on Mr. McCleary, and he's coming at me for the semifinals. We'll see what happens. Ready?
Yeah, and I got here right on time to get right to it.
He's been spending so much time preparing. He got lost and got a little late, but hey, that's fine with me. Let's go with our first battle. 11 AAA. Lincoln takes on Jefferson, a 6 o'clock start at Howard Wood Field. They played back in September. Jefferson won in the President's Bowl 30-13, their closest game of the year. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, and you remember that game obviously started out as a 30-0 first half. So, that was a second half that maybe Jefferson would like to have back as far as sort of their season-long performances go. There's not a lot of negatives to take away from that season, but talking to a lot of people on both sides, I mean, everybody just feels like that game was like years ago.
It really it does.
And, obviously, and part of the reason is because not only has Jefferson changed as a program and they've gotten better, Lincoln has taken leaps and bounds to get better. So, Jefferson does not think they're welcoming the same Patriots team that they saw in the President's Bowl. Lincoln does not think they're getting the same Jefferson team that beat them in President's Bowl.
Obviously, respect on both sides here, but these Patriots, I mean, they believe that they can take this next step. One of the few teams that believe they can take this next step. They think they got to be more physical on the corners, and they know they're going to get man-to-man press coverage on the outside. They know London Kolb is coming back and Griffin Wilde. It makes a difference on both sides of the ball in this game. But it's going to take a perfect game for Lincoln to beat Jefferson. I'm going to take the Cavaliers in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to take Jefferson too. It's like you said. It just Lincoln might give a fight, but there's just too little margin for error there.
Yeah. And the other 11 AAA game we're going to talk about, Harrisburg taking on O'Gorman, another matchup that we saw just less than a month ago, a couple weeks back, when O'Gorman turned the tables in the fourth quarter and ended up beating Harrisburg 24-20. This time around, I expect another close game.
Yeah, and it really seemed like Harrisburg had that game up until the very, very end. So, that's sort of the thing that's informing my pick. But what's sort of going through your mind?
Yeah, I think that this O'Gorman team has been dealing with injuries, like piecemealing their offensive line together over the last month, especially. There's been injuries with Maverick Jones. There's been injuries to several players, but they've been finding a way to make it happen. And Bennett Dannebring's really been the glue, as far as I'm concerned, in making this happen. And I think they're going to keep on finding a way to make things happen. I think this Harrisburg team, definitely has all the pieces putting together. And with Gavin Ross, they seem like a much more complete team. But for some reason, I think this O'Gorman team has just found a way to make things work, and I think they're going to find a way to make things work on Friday night.
Yeah, and this was a really, really tough one for me. I did pick against you this time, so we're trying to get a little bit further back in the standings there.
Here,
but I picked Harrisburg in this game. If you would have asked me a few weeks ago after watching sort of the end of the game for them and how O'Gorman really fought back in that fourth quarter, I probably would have picked O'Gorman then. But I just think meeting the same team twice in 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's going to be really, really hard for O'Gorman to repeat something like that. And I really thought that for most of the game, Harrisburg was the better team. And with Gavin Ross back, now in his third week back, and O'Gorman not having the easiest time in their 2-7 battle, I just think Harrisburg might be able to pull it off, but it's going to be really close.
Yeah, I agree. It could go either way, and we're kind of just each taking one side here of the stick of what could happen in this game. It's bound to be a good one for sure. Let's go to 11 AA, where Yankton takes on Pierre. They played back in September in the middle of the season. Pierre won that game 55-10. Yankton was without a couple of key players in that game, but Pierre has just continued to roll this year, and it's going to be tough to beat Pierre. And I don't think Yankton has quite the tools to take this team down. It's going to be really tough, especially on the road.
Yeah, heck of a quarterback battle. But, at the same time, it's, this was a game that we thought was going to be closer during the season, and it just wasn't. So, Pierre hasn't given us any reason to pick against them in this one.
Yeah, we both take Pierre in this one to get back to the Dome once again. Aberdeen Central takes on T Area. Of course, T with just the one loss on the year. They played Pierre as well as anybody has played them this year. Actually, they played earlier in the season, and T got the win against Aberdeen Central before Aberdeen started getting things together. And I just think T is too complete of a team. They run the ball well, and that's something that travels in the playoffs is the way they run the football.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of the AAA Jefferson-Lincoln game in a way. I think Aberdeen Central has made big strides in the last couple games of the season, but T Area might just be the more complete, the way too powerful team where it's sort of like gets in the way of your run a little bit. So
Aberdeen loves to run the football too. Carson Started just went over 1,500 yards on the season, but T gives up 48 yards a game on the ground, and I think that's going to be the key is will Aberdeen Central be able to make enough big plays in the passing game to surprise T? I don't think so. I think Titans get this thing done. I think we agree. Let's move to 11A, where things get much more unpredictable, the way I look at it at least. Sioux Falls Christian takes on Dell Rapids. They haven't played at all this season, and this could be a really fun game. This Sioux Falls Christian team has really established the run. They've run for over 1,600 yards on the ground this year. Tayton Snyder has done a great job. James Woodward, Carter Van Dong can get it done on the outside, but I really think this Dell Rapids team is maybe just always finds a way to stay in games, and they find a way to win games. And Mason Stubbe's had a great year for them, but they mix it up in the backfield as well. I really think home field advantage helps them out in this case, but man, anything could happen in this game.
Yeah, and I think both of these 11A games are the same way. And the great thing about these games is we haven't seen these matchups during the season. Right. So, that's we're seeing the top four teams just sort of in different order, I guess.
They've got a ton of common opponents, but they haven't seen each other.
Yeah. So I was actually surprised, looking at both the games, and didn't have any battles between them throughout the year. And obviously Beresford the year prior was in 11B, so that wouldn't have mixed up either. So
right.
There's a lot of teams that are seeing each other for the first time. So but this is another game where I feel like I'm just sort of picking against the probably presumed favorite, but I'm going with Sioux Falls Christian. Yeah. I just thought they looked really impressive against Dakota Valley. In the last couple weeks of the season, not only was Dakota Valley playing well, but Sioux Falls Christian really has taken big strides. And to see that those strides are so far apart from what the Panthers were at, that showed a lot to me. And, Sioux Falls Christian, those 3 losses, they've been in all of those games really close. So I think, this is going to be a game that they keep it close, and you never know what happens at the end.
Yeah, I would not surprise me one bit. I'm going to take the Warriors in this one at home, but, man, totally would not be shocked to see that thing go the other way, but I think Dell Rapids controls the game a little bit better, so give me the Warriors. The other matchup, we've got Beresford taking on West Central, another pair of games that haven't played each other yet this year. Beresford has had a great season moving up to 11A, probably better than most people would have thought. Scott Ebert said last week against Canton he thinks they played their most complete game in all 3 phases of that game, and he hopes to continue that against West Central, and they're going to need that because Chris Hernandez and West Central really have things going too. Other than that loss they had to Winter where they felt like they just were disjointed, they've really come back together. I'm taking West Central in a close one here, but I have zero confidence in my pick on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have West Central too, but it really could go either way for me. I mean, I've seen both these teams at separate parts of the season. I saw Beresford actually against Sioux Falls Christian, one of Sioux Falls Christian's 3 losses, and they look really impressive. They're not a team that throws the ball quite as much as a lot of other teams do, but they can throw it when they do. Against Sioux Falls Christian, they threw it a lot.
Right.
So that's interesting. Where you never really know what game plan you're going to get from them, and I think that could scare a team like West Central that's sort of built on sort of that consistency. But I feel like that might be the strong point of why I would stick with West Central. I just feel like they're going to remain consistent. I feel like they're going to get it done.
I agree. I think it kind of comes down to who do I trust more at quarterback? And lately I've trusted Justin Zerpel as much as any quarterback, especially in this class. He can do it running, he can do it passing if he needs to. And Tate Van Otterloo, not that I don't trust him, I don't think they have as much experience throwing the ball if they get into a situation where they need to do that. Give me the Trojans. We both take the Trojans there. In 11B, McCook Central Montrose played an unbelievable game last week to get the win over MVP. They take on a much more dominant team this week in Winter, who's really tested themselves with a heck of a schedule and passed with flying colors this year. I got the Winter Warriors in this one, but McCook Central Montrose proved people wrong last week with Boston Katzer, the young quarterback, having a great game. Maybe they do it again. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah,
I was looking at that game last week, and I thought that whoever gets the win in that game, just the momentum coming off of such a tight battle, that was going to be a big thing going into a game with Winter, but I still don't think it's enough for a team like Winter. Winter's just been too dominant.
Winter's won 33 games in a row. The only players on their roster who have suffered a loss were the senior class when they were freshmen, and that one loss that they suffered was a close game in the state title back in 2019. So these guys are used to winning. I think they get it done one more week. Hot Springs takes on Elk Point Jefferson. Hot Springs is logging some miles. Went all the way to Aberdeen last week, back to Hot Springs, heading all the way to Elk Point Jefferson this week. If they win, they might as well just hang out in Vermilion for a week. It's a lot of traveling across the state for this Bison team. But Elk Point Jefferson has been phenomenal, especially on defense this year. One of the best defenses I've seen in a long time. I would be surprised to see Elk Point Jefferson lose this one, but these Iverson twins are phenomenal for Hot Springs. What do you have on this one?
Yeah, Hot Springs has been really, really good, and that matchup with Aberdeen Roncalli, a lot of people were picking Aberdeen Roncalli just because nobody's really giving them any tests, and Hot Springs didn't only beat them; they shut them out, and that's
especially in the second half. They just kept getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, and so Hot Springs clearly has shown so much. But on the other side of it, Elk Point Jefferson may very well be the best team in this class.
They might be.
Because they obviously haven't had a chance to play Winter yet. But it's when you just look at, I think I wrote it down. They've allowed just 35 points all year long.
Yeah.
So that's too hard to pick against, especially when you haven't seen either of these teams play each other.
Yeah, that's tough. And plus, Elk Point Jefferson, you could make a point, is getting stronger. Chase Fournier made his first start of the year, one of their strongest linemen at left tackle last week, looked really good. And this team is as healthy as they've been, and they do a great job, balancing Lucas Heiser and Ben Swatek at running back, and then they rotate so many guys up front. I just think their depth, last week Hot Springs wore out Roncalli, a really good defense, but you can't wear out Elk Point Jefferson. They're just too deep. Give me the Huskies to get to the Dome against Winter. Let's move to 9-man football, where Parkston takes on Elkton-Lake Benton. Parkston pulled off what many consider as an upset against Howard, but this is a team that's been strong all year long. And when you look at what they have to do against Elkton-Lake Benton this week, they put up a really, really good squad here against one of the best players in the state in Ryan Krogh, who's been amazing not only through the air but on the ground. Throwing for 1,600 yards, running for 1,400 yards. This promises to be a really good game.
Yeah, it's funny. I expected all week for this to be Howard in this game. So, for Parkston to come out and just play the way that they did, that was really, really impressive to me. But Elkton-Lake Benton is a team that I've been keeping an eye on all season long. I might have picked them against Howard in this game, so that's the pick that I'm making this week.
Going with the Elks. Yeah, I'm going to go against the grain here. I think this Parkson team not only showed what they could do against Howard, they showed how strong they can run the football. And Elkton-Lake Benton, really good team, but they played close with Castlewood 2 weeks ago, and maybe not full strength this week. I think Parkson has the slight edge in this one. Give me the Trojans to get to the Dome. Hamlin takes on Wall. This Wall team has been so close. They've gotten to 4 semifinal games in the last 6 years. They really feel like this is the best team that they've had in Wall. Hamlin, on the other hand, played in overtime to beat Hanson. You can't get much tougher than a game against Hanson in overtime. They are a very good team that has to hit the road to take on Wall. I got Wall in a very close one here. This could be, these 9AA games are complete coin tosses to me. Yeah, and
Wall, it opened my eyes a little bit when Ball played Bonham pretty close.
Yeah.
And I was really high on Hanson going into that game against Hamlin, and then Hamlin, they took control, which is obviously it was a close game, but
they've only lost 1 game this year, and that was a close game to Warner. So they passed all the tests too.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's really hard for me to pick against Wall, but I think I'm going to do it in this game. I just think. that Warner game was still a really, really close game that could have gone either way. And I feel like some of their wins are just, really, really impressive. And I feel like they might have the resume.
I mean, wouldn't shock me at all to see the Chargers go to Wall and get this thing done. But I just trust Burke Blasius and Cedar Amiot, who have come up big, not only on offense but on defense for Wall all season long. And I got to take the Eagles to finally get it done, because I think this is their best team, and they've gotten so close. So give me the Eagles. We differ on that one, but you could be gaining some ground on me here. We've got some picks that we're different on, Michael. And they're really toss-up games, so I think you got a solid pick there.
Some might say that was my strategy.
All right, let's see what your strategy is in 9A as Hardin County Bison takes on Warner. Warner had an epic comeback, 34 unanswered points in the second half against Canastota to get it done. And Hardin County Bison also had a very slim margin, but got it done in the quarterfinals. Now they have to travel across the state against Warner. This Warner team, I really like. I really like that they have 2 guys at quarterback that can rotate and do different things, and they seem to be able to do that pretty seamlessly against this Hardin County team, who has a really good quarterback in their own, and Kelby Hett, who's thrown for 1,800 yards this year. What do you think in this one? I got Warner.
Yeah, I got Warner too. I just been really impressed with what they've been able to do, and Hardin County Bison. They played really, really well in the last couple of weeks, but they were able to sneak out that close game. Whereas, Warner, I just feel like might be the more powerful team headed into this one.
Yeah, and I think they can put pressure on the quarterback, and Riley Veal can run the ball, but I think if they can shut down Canastota, they can shut down the running game of Hardin County. So give me the Monarchs to get to the Dome. 9A action continues with Gregory at Lyman. This one is another coin toss game. Lyman with a huge win last week over Castlewood opened some eyes. Gregory found a way to get to the semifinals as well. 2 teams in Central South Dakota that have been playing really well this year. I think Gregory on the road finds a way to get this thing done, but Lyman at home has been really solid. What's the pick for you, Michael?
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of Gregory quarterback Ryland Peck. I think he's one of the better players in 9-man football. So I think in this game I might just sort of go with that. Obviously with thinking that he might be the best player in the game, and these teams are 2 pretty comparable. I think Gregory gets out of this one.
Yeah.
This one.
Lyman will play with a chip on their shoulder for sure, but I think Gregory has a little more depth and can get this thing done. 9B action. Irene Wakanda takes on Harriet Selby area. Harriet Selby area with another big win over Avon last week. Irene Wakanda, much tougher opponent this week coming in. 2 teams that have played really well in the playoffs so far this year. I've got the Wolverines to advance to the Dome under the power of Brendan Begeman. I think Irene Wakanda is good, but I think by the end of the game won't be able to stop Brendan Begeman.
Yeah, I think I'm going to surprise some people. I'm going to pick actually Irene Wakanda in this game, and I'm not too sure about it. I think Harriet Selby-Area very well could come out and, completely prove me wrong. But at the same time, Irene Wakanda has not lost to a 9B team this year. They've only played 2 of them, and they've been in the playoffs. So, they started the season with, a bunch of 9AA teams, and, sort of
Good
halfway
teams,
through the season.
Canastota, Gregory. I mean, they've played some good teams.
Howard, they halfway through the season though, they've completely reinvented themselves. They switched Miles Pullman from fullback to tight end, and he's become 6'4", 220 pounds, like almost an unguardable tight end option for them. Dashel Spurl's playing really great on both sides of the ball. I think Irene Wakanda might surprise some people, and I think that they might be able to pull this one out in a close one.
Yeah, you mentioned the factors in this game. Spurl and Pullman have been really good, and Chase Dallerup, another guy who's run the ball really solid for them. So don't be surprised out there. Last week, Irene Wakanda surprised some people with the way they played against Sully Buttes, but they could really compete. So we differ on that one. I got Wolverines. You got Irene Wakanda. Last game to look at, we've got 9B action, DeSmet and Hitchcock-Tulare. Another one fairly close the first time they played, just back in October. Hitchcock-Tulare won 34-12 on DeSmet's home field. DeSmet feels like they're playing their best ball right now. Hitchcock-Tulare just continues to grind and beat people up with Carter Binger and Eric Solomon and Landon Puffer's triplet set that is unmatched in nine-man football. Those 3 really get it done. I got the Patriots in this one to get by DeSmet once again, but wouldn't be shocked to see DeSmet make this one close. Yeah,
I agree. I didn't know if DeSmet was going to get past that last round game, and they did. They completely proved me wrong, and I feel like a lot of people wrong. So, it's going to be hard to pick against them, but I still think Hitchcock-Tulare might be able to get it done.
There we go. So that's what we think. I'm sure not everybody agrees with what we've put out there, but we try our best to give you the information you need to get set and go see the semifinals. What are you going to be doing for the Argus Leader coverage this week?
I'm going to be out at O'Gorman to cover O'Gorman Harrisburg, but elsewhere, we got the game at Howard Field between Lincoln and Jefferson, and also we're going out to that Sioux Falls Christian game against Del Rapids, so going out to Del Rapids there too. So we got 3 games at the Argus Leader this week.
Great coverage as always, so those game reports. And Midco Sports, we will be doing the game live at O'Gorman as well, the rematch between Harrisburg and O'Gorman. But coverage on Varsity Sports Live, we'll try to get to, if not all the games, almost all the games for highlights and post-game reaction to get you set for the championships coming up next week. And speaking of next week, we will move our show to Wednesday so that we can preview all the state championship games starting Thursday and going through Saturday down in Vermilion. All right, that'll do it for another episode of Football Insiders. We'll see you at the Dome. See you guys next week.